account for disaster vulnerability of the subcontinent in relation to its geomorphic diversity. Some kind of introduction, see what kind of diagram you can add, the body of the answer with 2, 3, 4 points, and then the conclusions. So what are the droughts? So if I give you a summary here, we have earthquakes related to northern mountains and the faults here. This is geologically active. Earthquakes, peninsula may be here. Earthquakes on peninsula related to ancient faults, Jabalpur fault, the Bhuj earthquake because of Alaband fault, northern mountains. You can talk about Kathmandu earthquake 2015. You can refer to the old ones, 1934 ka earthquake, 1950s ka earthquake. You know a bit of content from last class, talk about the seismic gap, okay, related to the northwards movement of the peninsular plateau. Okay, you can talk about that. You can talk about landslides, Himalayas mein, steep landslides. We have got cloud burst, softer soils, okay, rapid rivers, landslides. You can talk about landslides of the peninsular plateau. Here, of course, it is less about geology, it's more about human aspect, mining, agriculture. So this may be not the more important one, linked to geomorphology. Okay, you can mention, but don't elaborate too much. You talk about the floods, northern plains may. Talk about meandering of rivers, the flat plains, braiding, siltation. Talk about a river shifting in case of northern rivers, shifting floods. You can talk about droughts. One of you pointed that out, the leeward effect of the Western Ghats. Droughts also because of poor aquifers of the plateau. Okay. Droughts aggravate because of smaller rivers. Okay. The mountains not high for glacial source of water. If the mountains are very high, maybe we would have some glaciers also. You can have droughts. You can talk about tsunami, not directly linked to India's geomorphology, but the fact is the coasts are near to the subduction margins of Southeast Asia. Subduction margins along Sumatra, and the infamous tsunami, southern India has been impacted. So I think this more or less takes care of how the disasters are linked to which of the geomorphic features. Okay, volcanoes you can skip. Okay, volcanoes skip. At the best you can mention that okay, we have some tectonic active zones. Otherwise, volcanism as a India may be handy. Your conclusion, you can say that India is one of the most disaster-prone countries of the world because of its monsoon climate, because of its geological history, and also because of human factors. Okay, you can say natural conditions predispose a region to disaster vulnerability, but the human factors related to land use activities, human factors related to disruption of natural balance is more responsible for disasters. You can talk about the wisdom of neo-environmentalism. You can talk about the wisdom of finding solutions in the natural world as more effective. When you say this, you can bring in Griffith Taylor's stop and go. वो कर सकते हो, absolutely. So can you have a disaster vulnerability map of India? So this is the map like this. You can show these parts as earthquake prone. This is tsunami area. Show this as again earthquake prone. Use some color here to show disaster. Number them as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then have the list. 1 earthquake because of active tectonic zones. 2 is earthquakes because of ancient faults. 3 is tsunamis because of proximity with the margins. 4, so ऐसे लिख के बनाने आप. So draw a disaster vulnerability, but make sure that you're relating all disasters with some physiography, something about geology and geomorphology. You can add the additional disaster problem of desertification related to the northwestern deserts, sands, related to mountainous ravines, related to landslides. The idea is not to write every point, okay? The idea is not to write every point. Okay, try another question. Discuss the floods, vulnerability of Bihar and Assam in relation to their geomorphic features and their characteristics. So we'll talk about Bihar first. एक तो flat plains, meanders and large rivers. फिर terai of northern plains, so water logging and bad drainage. Then Bihar is lower course of Ganga, so larger rivers and sedimentation. Okay, इससे related क्या है? इससे related shifting of river है. You also have river braiding. Okay. The channel gets narrow. Bihar is in the foothills of Nepal Himalayas. Receives large rivers. River Gandak, River Kosi, River Mahananda. Orientation of Himalayas. Okay, so Bihar and West Bengal, they effectively block the Bay of Bengal branch, and eastern India has higher range. It's about the orientation of Himalayas. Himalayas ऐसे हैं, so the Bay of Bengal branch while entering India, this area blocks very effectively, so heavy rainfall. If the Himalayas were not there, maybe the conditions would have been different. See, Bihar का हो गया. Draw the diagram and show it that this is the river Ganga. So that's the Himalayas. That's the Nepal region. That's Bihar. River from here. River from here. Mahananda. River Kosi. Gandak. Draw this. Show this as plains. This yellow line, yellow shades. That's the Terai belt. Okay. And similarly, Assam. Assam plains. Okay. So we have narrow river channel. It's capable of flooding because the water overflows. Himalayan steep slopes. So rapid descending rivers. Okay. So you have got river Subansri, Manas. The mountains are steep. The water starts coming down very, very fast. Manas River, Subansri River. You talk about Sankosh River. Very rapid. Talk about high Himalayas and blocking the full force of Bay of Bengal. Heavy rains hota hai. The Himalayas were not as high. The mountains would not block and maybe the winds would continue further northwards. Because the Himalayas are so high, because they are so high, the mountains can block them very effectively. Narrow river channel. Remember, I must relate floods with geomorphic properties and characteristics. So narrow river channel, expand about it. Now, it's an earthquake-prone zone. Earthquake-prone zone में the course of Brahmaputra also shifts. This happened in 1950 के flood में. Brahmaputra, for good part of its journey in the north, flows along the Indus-Sangpo suture zone. Because of massive earthquakes, okay, the course of Brahmaputra can shift. There can be blocking of the channels, and also at the point, okay, that Brahmaputra flows through softer rocks, softer sediments. So this results in Brahmaputra carrying heavier load, resulting in reduction of channel capacity. Okay. And finally, conclusion may add that human factors also aggravate. Human factors increase the chances and the vulnerability of the floods. Human factors like deforestation in the mountains linked to jhum cultivation. Human factors like encroachment of the river channel course. Human factors related to dams that alters hydrology in the long run. More or less, you complete the answer and saying that yes, the geomorphic aspects are more important, but we also have problems related to human aspects, problems related to human land use patterns, human habitation, and how we are managing the upslope features, how we're managing the upslope forests and the upslope land usage. Let's take up something on monsoons now. So I think the three answers you can now manage. So we have got a good range of discussions on Indian physiography. Okay. The regular questions, I leave it to you. The physiographic details of northern plains, the physiographic structural details of Himalayas, the structural details of the plateau. Write a note on maybe Chambal, write a note on peninsular plateau. Okay, so all of that I think you can handle. Okay, so the applied aspect is what I've taken up.